Hey everybody, welcome into the Hive. I'm your host, TheBee at LLC, and this is where we stack precious metals like it's pollen and nectar. And today we're going to be speaking with Everard of ARK S.G.O, who has a brick and mortar store out of Jackson Hole, Wyoming. And let's bring him up and see what he has to say today. Ian, how are we doing? Welcome in.
Good, thank you. How are you?
Doing good, doing good. So, lots happening in the world, lots happening. And what's going on up there in Jackson Hole?
Yeah, we've had a bit of selling to us. Most of it's been planned, i.e. people near the end of their lives wanting to spend a bit of their gains, or younger people who've been saving in silver for a house deposit. So we've had quite a few transactions that way.
Okay, cool. That sounds like good enough reasons for
yeah.
cash.
Yeah, getting some new clients. I had a great discussion with an existing client. I learn a lot sometimes having a talk when I'm being, on a one-on-one, when they're asking what's going on, what do you see, what do you think of this?
I bet.
And he mentioned E.B. Tucker.
Yeah.
He wrote the book Why Gold, Why Now?
Yes, sir.
And E.B. is very stoic, and his attitude is, I'll just ride what is moving and I'll jump off before it tops out and I'll move on to the next thing. And so he thinks it is not sensible in his mind to hold your precious metals. But I think he doesn't comprehend the trap that is set. And you've probably heard of Grant Williams?
Yes, sir.
So he told, I might have told it on your show, what were we, episode 37?
37, yep.
Wow, silver's going up faster than your episode numbers.
Good point. Good catch, yep.
Anyway, Grant Williams, he told this, it's like a modern day parable. And he said, if you want to catch wild boar, they live in their own wild environment. They can smell a human a mile or two off. You're never going to get near them, not even with a telescopic sight. You just would not get to hunt them. So what you would do, you'd go in right into the middle of where their main habitat is. They'll run off and hide, and you put a fence up. And when you go away, and 6 months later, you come up and you put another fence. So you've got a right angle. And 6 months later, you come back, and now you've got a U shape.
Right.
They get used to it, becomes part of their environment. They don't notice it anymore. It's just doesn't mean anything.
Yep.
And then you come back and you fill in the last fence to make a square with a big gate in it, and the gate's open. And then you go away. And what happens? 6 months later, you sneak up and you shut the gate.
Right.
And this is what's happened bit by bit. The fences have been built around the Western population in particular.
Yep.
And that is the perception of what is money, the perception of what is savings, the perception of so-called money saved for the future, the perception that pensions will pay, that Social Security will pay, that Medicaid will pay. All of these are fences that have been put up.
Right. That right there is a very good point. When that they leave that what appears to be fruit dangling in front of you.
Exactly.
Right?
So you're in your own environment. It feels safe. You've got all of your recency bias. You've got no real reason. The stock market goes up forever.
And a great point that just came to mind on that. Like, they ask you to put more into your 401k, and then they'll match you. And that of course the stock market up. Everything's great, and we're making.
I've had this discussion with my younger sister. She's got a good job, local government. They do that. They'll match. Encourage you to put more and more in. And then what happens when they slam the gate shut? So what is that metaphor for the system, for the financial system? Well, the financial system it's not necessarily been harder, but people haven't made the choice to have anything outside of the system. So the system are actually walls, and the gate is hung on the final wall. And most people are inside the system thinking they're in a surreal world. They're not in reality, because the reality is all the perceived spending power of the future. It's gone. Either it didn't exist, it's hypothecated, or it's been stolen, a bit of both.
Yes.
And when that gate shuts, for me, that gate shutting is when they turn on the CBDC, and when there's limited time and limited amounts of the old dollars can transfer into the new system. So everybody has to be inside that compound with the gate shut. Or you're living in the woods eating berries,
Yeah. Well, that's
because you won't be able to buy gasoline, you won't be able to register your car, you won't be able to buy or sell a house, you won't be able to do anything. There's anything to do with central or local government. You won't be able to do anything to do with health or education. If you visit a hospital, you'll have to give your FedNow details.
Yep.
On and on and on. And that's the gate shutting when we switch. Now, for people who've got wealth outside of the system, yeah, it could be hard. I think it will be easy for a fair while to sell your precious metals, but it will get harder and harder to buy them, and it will be regulated who can buy, when they can buy, and how much they can buy.
You're talking my language. These are
and then that will be the slow confiscation filter, because it'll be generally a one-way valve. So you can sell silver, will go into the elites and the banks along with the gold, and it will build up pace. And if we get a sudden surge, I mean, if gold is 4,000 tomorrow, and it could be, it's like, I mean, we broke 3,700.
37. Yeah.
You know, we're not far. Some people will sell into that.
Yes. Yeah, and that's another battle. Now, firstly, I want to say that's that's your words. I feel like you're speaking. It's me talking here, but and the scary side of that, like you mentioned, is so many people right now are talking about, boy, this is doesn't get this high very often, and the boy, it sure might drop, and not realizing that the big picture game that's going on. It's not like a printed devaluing fiat currency suddenly bounces back and shoots up. This is not, this is not, a normal playing field that we're used to dealing in. And everybody seems to think, oh, this is going to, just like old times. And I think just from looking at the corruption alone, like, let alone like you're talking, the system is, so devalued. With that devaluation and the printing of money, it comes into the system, and it has to be put into the system, and that creates corruption and people buying other people out to get what they want, and the corruption just seeps in. And I see that so clearly now in so many different places, the corruption showing up, and I think it's a huge sign that that this is the end. You got people from Venezuela. I just was watching today on a free Colorado channel, and she's like, I came out of Venezuela and was so happy to get to Colorado, and now I'm screaming at the top of my lungs, do you guys not see what's happening here?
Really?
Yeah. And so, and I do, I mean, I've been seeing that and trying to talk about it. It's hard to explain because this is not my normal field, but I can just see it in the,
we have, as I'm not a citizen yet. I'm still a green card holder.
Okay.
I'm debating whether to get my citizenship. The problem with being, the problem of being American is you're not really welcome in most places of the world now. You're really not.
Sure. No. Yeah. Well, I mean, that's, so sad to say these things, but, I that's what I knew, like, going into this. Some of the things that we're pulling and doing is you just don't do those things, without losing a ton of credibility. And, I was taught your word is your honor. You don't lie. You be an upright person. And I mean, we're just backhanded, backstabbing, lying, cheating, stealing. And it's like, this doesn't end well when you act like this,
No, it is suggestive of the end of an empire, isn't it?
Yes, I think so. Yeah,
I just didn't think it was going to come this rapidly.
Yes.
You probably heard me talk. Oh my gosh, what an incredible setup we've got. We've got the US, Canada, Mexico, New Zealand, Australia, South Korea, Japan, Great Britain, all forming a free trade area. And then it's just all been blown out of the water.
Yep. Yep. And that's the scary thing and that's kind of what else I was saying. I've been saying, they're kicking the legs out from under the American, especially on the people. Yeah. And, like you say, if it wasn't for our ridiculousness, we could have great trading partners. We have a lot of the things that we need right here in America. We have, we could support ourselves if we would be an upright country with,
You need to adjust slowly and steadily on a planned, long-term, multi-decade basis to not cause chaos. I mean, if we were to reindustrialize everything and be able to make everything here in the US,
right,
it would need all of the steel the world could produce for years. We couldn't make enough steel here to build the factories, to build the machines, to build the infrastructure to make it possible. So you can't do it all at once. So ideally, you would choose, okay, what's the most critical? What's going to be the most beneficial? What's going to bring the most jobs? What's going to be most sustainable? What's going to be enduring and give good return? But a government should be looking at return on capital over a 20 or 30 or 40-year period, not 6 months, 1 year, 2 years. But the longest the political system allows really is 18 months of something has to happen in 18 months before the midterms. So they want to stay, so the government in power wants to stay in power. And we just cycle from crazy to crazy and back to crazy. So it's up to us, to individuals.
That's what I've came down to. And that is really the most a person can control is themselves, and hopefully you're
on a good day.
Yeah, good point.
On a good day, yeah.
And I think I really think that's a big deal, and a hope that I have that, and we really need that revival in America for people just to regain themselves, take control of their own self and their own house and their own area. And just because it's going to be a bottom up thing. It's not going to be, we're going to get the right person up there in that house of corruption, and that's going to bring us relief. I don't think at this point it's going to be that way. It's going to have to come from the bottom up, and it starts with each person individually. And like we've said before, you were saying you can lead a horse to water, and that's what I put on my title here today. And like I was just mentioning a bit ago, we got people that are saying, I've seen silver get up here before and it crashes down, so I'm going to cash out. And it just it's like, how are you missing?
I don't think there's many, but they're not aware of the big picture, not aware of what's going on. 888 made a point there. We don't have any rare earths.
Rare earths, yeah.
We do, actually. We have approximately 8 million tons in coal ash heaps from the America's coal-powered power stations. So we have actually plenty, but we haven't invested in the technology to extract them and refine them. Because rare is a misnomer. I think that's
right. They're not very rare.
They're not rare. They're just at relatively low concentrations, so it takes a bit of work to extract and refine them. So
and it's interesting.
They're not the crunch. They are not the crunch metal. The crunch metal is rhenium.
How do we got any more information on the rhenium? Last I heard,
we do. So I think I shared on Tiger Stacker that the U.S. government, the Department for Logistical Acquisitions, basically it's a government arm of the military-industrial complex, sent a letter to rhenium players saying they wanted to acquire 40 tons. Well, 40 tons probably doesn't exist in the Western world. It's not available. But what that did, that shouted out to the people in the rhenium industry, uranium's a lot more valuable than you think it is.
No doubt, right?
Because we produce 30% from molybdenum from copper mines in the US, but we use 75% of the world's production. And that comes from Chile, Poland, and Kazakhstan. So we have to import at least 20 tons a year. So that, I would say, rhenium is the most critical metal, because there's no rhenium mines. It's only extracted as a byproduct of a byproduct. All of its uses are high value. In fact, its lowest value use is actually when you mix it with platinum, so you can use less platinum. So right. I think its ceiling really is when it approaches the price of platinum.
And this is just, for me, I just want to highlight that I think this is a great flag popping up of what's going to happen in a lot of the other metals industries. And,
yes, because it won't even matter if there is plenty around the world. It's going to stop moving around the world. Free trade is grinding to a halt. Globalization is rapidly collapsing. We're going to see the US not patrolling the seas, ensuring other countries can trade with each other. That's going to coming to a rapid end. And I think, James Rickards, he wrote a book called Currency Wars, where he predicted the wars of the future would be with currency, not kinetic. I think the real wars of the future will be commodity wars.
Oh, totally agree. Totally.
If you haven't got your super hard alloys and your tungstens, there's a whole lot of military stuff you can't.
Well, do. That really, sorry to interrupt, but that really underpins my whole thesis, is because the fiat is just a never-ending paper issue, or just digits on a computer now. It's a false reality.
It's a false reality. Yeah, that is destined to collapse if we stop expanding, and destined to collapse catastrophically if we carry on expanding it. There's only two outcomes as a nation. It's only an individual or a small group of individuals can escape, i.e. by putting the bulk of your assets outside of the system.
Yeah.
Then, because the system will collapse.
Yes. Yeah, so I can hear, and what you're seeing more of the, collapse, so, yeah. What do you, like, when I was first talking with you, you were a little bit more resistant on this, and you're talking about how fast this is moving. And so you're kind of having a bit of a change of mind where, you do see the dollar now coming to maybe not completely collapsing, but at least, it's already kind of losing its world reserve. We got BRICS and their trade, like, that's happening, whether it's successful or not.
It's happening, and they're going to use gold to settle the transaction differences.
And so that's going to just bring more dollars home here, let alone what we need to.
I did hear today, and I cannot quote my source. I was told expressly, do not quote. My source said, do not quote me. Here we go. So I don't give any clues away. A very large mortgage company bought so many gold eagles that the price of gold eagles, the premium, jumped 0.75%.
Wow. Well,
i.e. 0.75% of spot, which was a huge move in premiums. Absolutely huge move, because considering a couple of months ago, common day eagles were trading wholesale at 0.1% over the gold price.
Okay, yeah, premiums have just collapsed here.
No, they're moving up. Yeah. They're moving up
now. They're moving up. Okay.
But in gold, it was caused by a large mortgage company bought a shed full of gold eagles. Well, what's a mortgage company doing buying gold eagles? They know something is coming where their assets they've got are going to collapse, and gold is going to go to Mars. Yep. And that way, exactly what I've been telling people for 5 years. If you don't believe me, if you think I'm crazy, if you think it's a crazy thing to have and hold precious metals, but there's a tiny little bit in you think, you might be right, put 1/8 of your wealth into the precious metals. And then if everything else you've got goes to zero, your 1/8 will be at least 8 times the purchasing power. You'll be whole. and your downside is minimal.
Right.
Minimal. Okay, you might be, lost opportunity. If you'd had that in the stock market, and it would have gone up and done this and this. If you'd bought Apple, if you'd bought this, that, but it's 1/8.
In this much chaos.
That's what this mortgage company is doing, and that's why Palantir bought $50 million of gold about 3 years ago. I think it was 2-3 years ago. Palantir announced they bought $50 million of gold.
That's right. And if anybody knows what's coming,
Utah has bought half a ton of gold, 500 kilos. So 500 times $117,000 a kilo. So 500 times, that's 50 million, 52 million, I think.
Wow.
That's not an insignificant amount in a state's reserves. So if these big players, I mean, Texas has been holding precious metals for a long time, haven't they, for their Texas State Pension Fund?
Yeah.
So this can't really be hidden. David Bateman spending $1 billion about 3-4 months ago on precious metals, and he was very public about it.
Yep.
It can't be many more days, many more purchases, and then the metals are really moving and premiums are moving up.
Yep, and it'll be just another, like the government just saying, well, let's get some rhenium, and then there's none to be had. It's just gonna start falling in more and more of these categories, and that's the sad truth. That's what we're out here trying to lead horses to water, but watching it move up like this, silver now, it got knocked down, but it got knocked down to 42. Like it's 42 now.
It got a 41.20 something briefly about 3 o'clock this morning. When most people are asleep. Occasionally I'm awake and I have a look. And I think we're back to 42 now, aren't we?
Yep, back to 42. They hit us down hard, and we're to 42. So I mean, we were up over 43, and those little knockbacks like that are actually kind of good because it's not just straight up, and then
they're more dense in the stair treads. Because we're stair stepping up. And these pullbacks are just little dents in the step. They're not really
right.
That's not a usual pattern we're seeing.
But yet not so bad. But I think it's much more stable. Like we're already more stable at these levels than any of our past spikes up here, right?
Yes. Yeah.
So this is kind of a new.
It is a new paradigm in nominal terms because the actual time in days that it's ever been above this is just a few days.
And this is why I was just explaining not long ago, people don't sell out to buy back in on a dip because this is not going to be like other times. And now here we are at 42. We just had a bit of a pullback, but people are mentally going to think, oh, 42, I'm not going to buy in at 42. But actually, we're not even close to where we're going to be going here, in my opinion.
I have a client who had 4 million on the sidelines, and they thought $22 was too high.
Oof.
They're not going to see $21.
Wow.
No.
Wow. So they never got in then, or oof.
No, not with that 4 million. No.
Wow. That's and that's the thing. You got to see the big picture because still right now, I mean, you should still take that 4 million and put it in my opinion, this is not advice obviously, but because where else, I mean, if you can put it into some other asset that's going to do you well, okay. But I still say gold, silver is probably our best looking asset out there right now. I
agree. Yeah.
So, and of course, some of these other metals, like you're saying, rhenium, but most people don't even know these osmium. But most people are not even to gold and silver, so it's hard to explain some of these other things to them. But
rhenium, looking at strategic metals invest.com. They're showing it as up 62% this year.
Wow.
They're showing over 4,000 now, $4,037 a kilo.
And you got a huge government contract trying to suck up anything.
They're trying to acquire 40 tons in an industry where there is little slack. China did the heavy lifting in 2023. They bought 26 tons against their normal consumption of 1.8 tons. And they've been scouring the world buying rhenium in all forms, in the perrhenate form, in scrap metal, in semi-refined. They have been buying whatever they can and paying top dollar to outbid everybody else.
So, running around and buying the doré that we'll refine it. We'll give you more than it's worth right now.
It's because they've done their due diligence and they found the most critical metal.
Yep.
You know, a lot of people asked me early on, well, why have you seen the opportunity and no one else has seen it? And I said, do you know what? Does that matter? Now I know China saw it at least in 2023. So at least a year before I worked it out. And I only worked it out because I had a client who kept texting and calling me saying, you need to look at rhenium, you need to look at rhenium. And it twigged that somebody had told me about a year or so before, you need to look at rhenium. And I can't even remember who that was, but then it like, okay, I better have a look. And just the dynamics and we're getting new uses on top of the existing uses, and there's not enough for the existing uses. Apparently it's a highly suitable for the not the catalyst, maybe the catalyst, but in the production of green hydrogen. And we're going to be producing a lot more green hydrogen because in a lot of areas, that's the most economical way of storing green power, solar and wind power. You use it to create electricity and use the electricity to create hydrogen. Now you've got that stored energy, which is relatively easy to use in vehicles. A lot of existing vehicles could be converted to hydrogen. It doesn't take much to redesign an engine to run on hydrogen. It's highly suitable for diesel vehicles that have a very high energy requirement. So apparently rhenium is going to be be a key metal in the production of green hydrogen, as well as its medical uses that are coming online and growing rapidly. So we've got a case where an element was way too rare to have practical long-term industrial uses, has found them. And now the world is going to be fighting over who gets it. There's going to be a price war. You know,
yes, the currency war is basically going to be a commodity. It's kind of saying the same thing, really, if you think about it.
It is, but it's even more critical.
And a point I want to point out, actually one of the things that really sold me, like about me thinking maybe I see something that a lot of people, even financial bigwigs, aren't seeing, which is crazy because, you know, I'm just an average guy, so I don't know why I was able to see this, but
Frisky Dingo's got a comment there that platinum are the go-to anodes in fuel cells. You can use rhenium, and at the moment rhenium is 1/12 the price of platinum. So what are they going to use? They're going to use rhenium. It's going to drive rhenium up to the price of platinum, because there probably won't be enough platinum even if they just didn't use rhenium. So literally this next generation, you know, and Japan's way ahead because Japan has built out infrastructure across the whole country of hydrogen stations, and they're almost jumping the EV stage, going straight to hydrogen power.
Yeah, I was just going to say, you know, what sold me is that it's not just going to be like how Germany had hyperinflation and gold and silver just went crazy price in a short amount of time. This time, it's going to be kind of the entire world, as we are the global reserve fiat, not just one. Right, exactly.
We've actually lost. Gold is now more gold by dollar nominal dollar valuation is held as a central bank reserves in dollars now.
Yeah,
it overtook the euro about a year ago, and now it's overtaken the dollar.
The dollar. Well, that's
So
that was the
it
last shoe to
has
drop for
become,
me right
so
there.
as I predicted when I heard about the Basel III, and I did a bit of research, banks could voluntarily declare gold as a tier 1 asset about 15 years ago. So they're way ahead, the central banks, and they've been accumulating probably on the quiet. So gold really is the only one, it's the only tier 1 asset now.
And I suppose you would keep it quiet, but it just re-underpins the scarier part where you mentioned earlier, and I've been talking about is the quiet and the dead sleep that the public's in, that's going to usher in or close that gate, like you're talking on, and get the four sides up, and then you close the gate. Why not didn't 15 years ago the banks, when they see that, mention to everybody, and say, look, guys, we need to turn this ship around. We all need to start investing in gold. We're going to start investing in gold. We're going to, but instead it's just quietly they suck it up while they print the dollars to buy it.
not just quietly. Do you remember that FDIC video where they were laughing at the public?
Yes.
So naive to trust them.
Yep.
They weren't just sitting quietly; they were laughing
Right.
at us.
Yeah, and saying we can't trust the public to tell them that.
We can't give them the information of the actual situation, as they would panic, and rightly so. They would panic. Yeah.
Yep. And they're saying, yeah, they, even though they trust it more than we do, ha 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 ha. Yeah. So.
Frisky Dingo said about rhenium being hard to get. At the moment, it's not. We've got it in the smaller denominations as quarter of a kilo. So at the moment, it's really easy to get. But
yeah, well, give Ian a call and it's easy to get, maybe. But
we only sell it in industrial form. We don't mess around and get it put into raw bars, because you're just adding a lot of processing and you're not adding any value to it.
Okay, good information.
Rare earths, Frisky Dingo, we did mention earlier, they're not rare. All the rare means, the use of that word means dispersed in low concentrations. So we've got projected up to 8 million tons just in coal ash from coal-fired power stations in the US. So the delay will be in building out capacity to process and refine them. That's the hiccup, and China has cornered that, because every time other countries and companies started their own processing plants, they slashed the price on the open market and made it uneconomic, and private businesses couldn't afford to run at a loss, so they shut down. So they basically monopolized the whole production pretty well of refining. So they're found all around the world, and there's other processes being developed where you can extract them. In fact, Barry, the Texas State Osmium Institute, he's involved with a company that can do some incredible extraction of low concentration metals and elements.
Wow, cool. Yeah, I think they're ahead of us in quite a few of those areas, and you're saying, they have China's the largest manufacturer out of everybody, probably.
On some of the metals, they got 100% of the business. On a lot, 90%.
Wow,
comes from China. Whether they mine it there, if it's mined elsewhere, it gets shipped to China and processed there.
I hear they don't sell. It doesn't go. It comes in, but it doesn't leave.
No, they have been selling, and the part of the reason they've been selling was to make sure to actually create a monopoly. People got used to it, so then if they want to, they can turn it on and off. Hence, we've had the ban on several key metals, the super hard alloys, so the tungsten alloys. They banned the export of those. So we're not hearing anything. At least I'm not hearing anything, and I probably wise not to do too much research into the military-industrial complex, because they're probably watching who's looking into all of this stuff too deeply. But I'm sure it's getting critical, some of these tungsten alloys. I think Space Miner might be more up to date on there were certain other metals that they banned the export of to the US.
Yeah,
but the sleeper one is rhenium. That is the sleeper one that no one in the press, no one in the metals world even knows what it is, let alone talking about it. Yet 80% of the world's uranium goes for making jet turbines for civilian aircraft and military aircraft. And without it, we can't make high efficiency jet engines.
Yeah, I don't know. It's hard for me, again, it's hard for me to see that we got ourselves in this bad of a situation without them seeing it. And so I just, I wish the people, they definitely need to start, securing their own financial stability themselves.
And if you can't do that, I saw an excellent program. I'll have to forward it to. It was an overview of all the currency failures, in the last 400 or 500 years. And one of the key things, and it mentioned about after the Black Death, where Europe lost over a third of its population, the people that prospered, one were the people who had gold and silver, had stored wealth, so they could pick up assets on sale, that people had died and were left vacant. But two, people who had skills, so millers and carpenters and blacksmiths. So if you had a practical skill where you could make, mend, or fix something,
right,
you could gain wealth rapidly after a crisis. Because what is happening, we are deglobalizing. We're going to need more people who can fix things, because it may not be an option just to buy a new one, or it might be 10 times the price, or it might be a 10-month wait. So we might have to work out how to take power tools apart and fix them rather than just throw them away.
Right. Yeah. Learn how to work, really, because our whole we've been taught, and the man in my, I homeschooled. So, and I didn't plan that. I wouldn't want to plan that. So, our schools are teaching the wrong things. Everything's kind of upside down, and we're going to have to change around our whole philosophy and go back to who we used to be. Originally we were pretty well off and took care of things ourselves, but we've just come to rely on, we just go to the grocery store and you get what you want, and that might be rapidly changing. The cattle prices right now are just through the roof. But yet lots of ranchers are already sold out, no longer around, and
arable crops are through the floor, aren't they? So rice and wheat and soy have just collapsed.
And the corruption, I watched a long time ago, Monsanto, they do these genetically modified crops, and you can't buy crops that you want. You have to go through Monsanto. If you are using your own heirloom organic crops, and a wind picks up from a Monsanto field from your neighbor and pollinates or gets into your genes, then they can come test your field, and if they find any of their GMO stuff in your field, you get sued for it because you're using their, so it's this type of corruption, and it's taken out the farmers and it's taken out the schools. Have you heard, I believe it was on Liberty and Finance, just put out a couple nights ago, a show where a guy came on and talked about, in the USA, the school bonds that were being put out. There's like these school municipalities or whatever they are would put out a bond, like a loan, like, a bond of, we'll pay this back in X amount of time, but they never pay it back. And it's so bankrupt at this point and gotten so big and out of hand, they don't know where the cutoff is on it. And it bankrupts states, and there's, trying to put in lawsuits to stop it. Because if it doesn't, you're going to have the great taking, like David Rogers' wife has already put out a book on the great, these things are real. And a lot of people have tried to, quit being a fearmonger, but, and I suppose it's the boy who cried wolf, because, silver did get up to 50 and then dropped down to $5 for a long time. But you got to see the bigger picture, where we're at, understand the mechanisms at play, because it's not going to turn around.
But with the history on that silver action, it wasn't just a natural cycle.
Okay.
It was deliberately crushed and deliberately suppressed for a long. How much is it being suppressed now? I think there are still still some action trying to slow down its rise. You know, I haven't brought one here, but I got those 100-ounce USSA office bars from the strategic stockpile in New York and San Francisco. I got some 10-ounce bars, 1 ounce rounds. Those were minted and sold in 1981, 82.
Right after
dumping the US stockpile after the price had collapsed.
And warning the people not to get into silver and do that, and to keep people out of it. They were selling our stockpile into the market in large quantities, and those bars are an example of it, right? And just that's manipulation blatantly in front of you. You know, now that we're where we're at and see how we got here, now you can look back at that and say, you know, that was blatant and not good for the people. That was not a positive thing that the government did for the people right there.
No, they should have been buying silver.
Exactly.
On our behalf.
I wish I knew the stockpiles of silver, because from the research I've done into the silver world, that's kind of the one shady area that it's hard to find. What do we have for actual above ground stockpiles?
I think I've seen some really good research. It's about 2 to 2.5 times the amount of gold. It's not a lot. By weight. So every ounce of gold, there's 2 to 3 ounces of silver above ground in refined form.
When would that, like, is that current information or was that current?
Current. Okay. That was pretty recent. Yeah. And you get disparity on that. I mean, CPM Group, Jeffrey Christian.
Yep.
He states, I don't think he thinks that, he states that 90% of all the silver ever mined is still available.
Yeah, well,
that's crazy. Yeah. That's just patently not so. And the silver, other people say only 10%. But we wouldn't have had these massive price actions recently in silver. They were caused by a blowout of the exchange for physical, where people had a contract, could settle in dollars or physical, insisted on physical till the price went up to a point where they took the dollars. That's why we've had these massive jumps. It's nothing to do with retail buying, not necessarily even due to physical buying, but I would say proof of a shortage of physical, because if there was plenty of silver available that somebody could go out and buy at the current spot price, they would go out and buy it to satisfy the contract rather than have the price forced up. So they have to settle in more dollars or pay more dollars to get the silver to settle the exchange for physical contract. So the system is breaking. The manipulation is breaking. And if the manipulation was being effective as it has been, silver would be $10.
Yeah, exactly.
$8. It would be minimal because the bulk is a byproduct.
Yep. And they'd be selling in like they did then if they weren't.
Exactly.
They would hold on.
But they've blown that. It's gone. The strategic reserves are gone. There may be some in the defense industry. I don't think Musk is smart enough to stockpile silver. He's too busy trying to make 100 babies or 200 babies to colonize Mars. He's just space cadet, literally.
I don't give him the credit a lot of people do.
So there isn't stockpiles. You know, probably David Bateman, who bought $500 million of silver, he's one of the major holders of physical silver.
Yep.
And he ain't saying that.
Right.
You know, so.
Yeah, I think so.
Well, that's interesting what 888 has said. Were they 1 ounce bars, 888?
There's a turbine piece. So
because I think the price for industrial rhenium is just over $100 a troy ounce.
And you have some yourself, but since this contract has went out, are you worried about re-uploading? Like, is
we're getting reduced allocation. So what I do, I will put out a few calls and say what is available today, 2 days, what's available this week, what would the price be, and I get different figures from my suppliers, what they would be prepared to sell for what price. But it jumped $400.
Wow. Good call. And yeah, so I'm not sure. I mean, you nailed the rhenium. I mean, down to the point, like, you know, I don't know how much. I mean, you there's no better calling something than you did on rhenium. You really
It was
sniffed that out.
my friend Dave in California who kept calling and texting me and saying, you need to look at that. He kept sending me information. I relented and researched it. And, you know, it was something I just got to start acting on this. And so most of our clients who've bought, they've been clients who will call me now and then, say, Ian, what are you seeing? What should I be buying? You know, and I'll lay out the options and why I think what they should add to their existing holdings. And they've bought heavily, you know, into the millions of dollars.
Wow, awesome.
So it's I wish we could get it out to the whole precious metals community, but there's not enough. There literally is not enough.
You made that call. That's great. Osmium is doing great, going to continue to do great. Silver, you know, back a few months ago when the ratio was up over 100, I asked you, you know, would you switch into silver? You said, yeah. You nailed that one to the wall as well.
We did. We ran our gold down to almost zero at that point.
Good job.
And we built a little bit of gold up just to cover what could be a US government overnight revaluation. I think they'll do it in two. If they do it, they'll do it in 2 steps. They can't do it in 3 steps because then everybody will front run it and think they're going to keep stepping it up. But I think they'll get away with doing it in 2 steps. So they might go 8,000, 20,000. So I don't know. I'm just picking random numbers. Yeah. So I think to have a bit of gold just in case that happens.
Sure.
The problem is that will destroy what is left of the credibility of the dollar.
Right.
Because they will immediately monetize the increased value of the treasury held gold.
Yeah, and see, I think a lot of people think, oh, they wouldn't do that to the people. They are so going to do that to the people.
And what they should do is, why does a government own anything? They should. They're custodians. They should be called a custodian, not an owner. There should be no government property, no government gold, zero.
And they definitely shouldn't own the land.
Because they pin the debt on us. The debt isn't government debt, it's our debt. It's like when you look on the debt chart, the debt clock, the debt is per citizen, what per taxpayer or per citizen owes. It's hung on us. So they should be called custodians, and they should be custodians. And as custodians, I think they should divide all the gold up, admit that they've got way more than they should have, and they should send it out to everybody.
Yeah, exactly. Want to do with it. Exactly. And I'm not sure if it's in I can't remember what documents it's in, but they're originally supposed to have like 5 acres to house their White House and their other buildings. They're not supposed to own like 50% of the U.S. like all national parks now owned by the Fed. That's not supposed
to be custodians. I think the national parks, I think it's a good idea. So to stop it being developed, to stop it being stolen from land barons and, you know, grabs. And that Mike Lee of Utah, he's a disgrace of a politician. So if anybody knows anything about him, he snuck it into a bill, the selling off of public lands, supposedly for affordable housing. But all that's aimed at is selling off multi-million or $100 million tracts for wealthy billionaires to build a paradise on public lands. It's not to provide affordable housing. Sure. I mean, the guy is a crook. He's I hope you're watching, Mike Lee, because you're not far from me. I'll come and flipping expose what you're doing is absolutely corrupt. It's horrific.
It's bad. Corruption is just so...
because I think most Americans of whether you're a donkey and an elephant or you don't pick an animal, whatever you are, I think it's a huge asset to have these, you know. And yes, you could say, oh my gosh, there's resources there, we should exploit them, you know, but at what point do you destroy, you know? I think there was foresight in creating those parks, because in that massive rush of industrialization, massive population growth, massive immigration, we could have easily trashed the whole country. Literally everything could have been stripped, you know, strip mined, deforested, you know, clear cut. Everything could have been trashed. So I think there was a lot of foresight. Yeah, you know.
Well, I wish I could. I wish that it was with good intentions. I just have. I have with the rest of the stuff that they're doing that's corrupt. It's tough for me to swallow that. But did you see? So Frisky Dingo asked, did you have an XRF for purity? I think on the rhenium, but it's pure already. It was in 3.9s fine. The rhenium.
We get minimum 4.9, okay. Independently batch certified. So every container has a batch label on it showing which batch it came from, and we have copies of the independent certification. So okay. Yeah, and our suppliers, they supply Rolls-Royce and GE and Raytheon, okay. Lockheed Martin, you know, and the melters that make the specialist alloys. It's the same stuff that goes into making jet engines for fighter jets, the SR-72, satellites, rockets, space vehicles, oil front, you name it. It's the real deal. Yeah.
You don't happen to have a piece of sample to show 888 was looking for?
I can run and go grab a jar if you want.
Not unless if it's handy, sure. But it's just a little pellet of charcoal looking.
I have got a box because I did drop a jar, so I do actually. I'll go grab that.
Okay. Yep.
I'll talk amongst yourselves. There you go.
All right, we'll do. Any rhodium for sale? Okay, I'll throw that up on the screen. See what he says to that. Still think nickel is best buy. Nickel, yeah, nickel thinks nickel. It's not surprising. Dollar will die. Yeah. Yeah, we talked about that earlier. Yeah, he does have a bar also, I guess. Most of his rhenium, I think, comes in pellet, like a pellet type thing he's grabbing now, I think. But I think he does have a kind of a shiny bar of it as well. Yeah, I just picked up some platinum myself. I think it's good indeed. And of course, your byproduct of platinum, osmium, is going to do great as well. All of these little metals, like he just said, with the government coming out and putting out that contract on rhenium, all these little metals and different metals are going to start getting gone through with a fine-tooth comb, and the same thing's gonna happen. So we got some more questions. If you got any rhodium for sale, but what do you show us your rhenium there?
So these are kilo jars. You see it's got a batch label on there. On the bottom, lot number.
Okay. Oh yeah, it's got lot numbers and everything.
Yeah.
Okay.
So these are laboratory grade jars, screw tight lid with a tape and a security tab.
Cool. And is that your half kilo or a kilo?
That's a kilo.
That's a kilo.
So that's $3,600 there.
$3,600. And that was a few months ago. You could have got that for
$2,500.
$2,500.
And then these are the pellets.
Okay.
So if anybody wants a pellet, I'll sell these at the $3,600 a kilo rate pro rata. So you pay no premium. It would be interesting if anybody can get up to 3,180 centigrade, because that's what these all melt at.
Wow.
So that's another way you can prove what it is, the melting point.
Okay.
Only tungsten has a higher melting point.
Okay, and then we had do you have any rhodium for sale question?
I don't. We are concentrating on rhenium. We want to conquer the whole rhenium market, take over the whole rhenium market first.
Then
move on to some of the other metals. Yeah.
Cool.
Diameter. So that looks like just over 1/2 inch. If I put it next to my Sharpie pen.
Oh yeah, there you go. Cool. Yeah, thanks, Truth Seeker. That's what I watched. Yeah, it was Max Vexler on Liberty and Finance that spoke about the 5.1 trillion fraud in bonds, and it's much bigger than that. It's just they know it's at least that.
Wow.
So, yeah, that was a very interesting talk. So, yeah, we are pretty much at our hour here. I was just looking through some of these comments. So, it is sponge or metallic? Frisky Dingo, what are you talking about? What's sponge or the only sponge, the only form of sponge that I know of that is the metals that we have got into is the osmium. Is there another type of metal that comes in a sponge like that you know of?
I presume sponge just means powder.
Right.
So yes, you can. I mean, you can get rhenium in powder form, but they tend to just squish it into these pellets just for convenience. I think it's a lot easier to handle and measure out in the pellet form.
Okay. Yeah, Truth Seeker's asking about the rhenium bar that got polished in Denver.
Oh, that's in the truck. Yeah, I'll keep that to show people. Yeah, it is a pretty in the wrought form. So they take an exceptionally pure powdered rhenium and they crush it into submission to get it into that wrought, into what I call maximum density rhenium. And in that form, it's denser than gold. And it shines up beautifully. Yeah, it was Space Miner who found a metal polisher in Denver.
Yeah.
What's my micro pitch on rhenium? Okay, 50 tons a year produced. It's a byproduct of a byproduct. All of its uses are very high value uses, so the price doesn't affect the consumption, and the consumption is just growing, and the consumption doesn't affect the supply because the supply is constrained.
So OC asked there, who you sell back with rhenium?
Sell back. I've told all my clients, please offer it back to me and we will get the best price when the time is right. And I think we're pretty certainly going to set up a leasing company. So you'll have the option of leasing your rhenium to maintain title, lease the metal and get an income.
Oh, okay. Interesting. Okay, very cool. We've had our hour. What else do you got for the people before we wrap up? What's your big deals you got going on? I know rhenium is get with him to get uranium because the government's out to find a little bit. So
it's
I don't know if you're going to be able to get it from Ian or not, but
it is going to $25,000 a kilo.
Wow.
And that won't even equal its high in 2008. And its high in 2008, it fell back down because they tightened up on the recycling and made sure everything was tracked, traced, kept in a closed loop and recycled. And I just found out about 7 days ago, Exxon had 10 to 15 tons of rhenium because they were going to use it in a process to liquefy gas. And then for whatever reason, they decided not to. I don't know any more information, but they dumped that 15 tons on the market as the price was collapsing. There isn't 15 tons going to get dumped onto the market. So it's going to at least $25,000 a kilo. And it will still be cheap because it's used as a substitute to, for platinum. A lot of things that platinum is used for, rhenium will do.
Yeah, okay. And then I was just doing a little research on osmium and the high-tech ready osmium looks like it's going to possibly have a lot of big possibilities coming down the track for it as well.
Yeah, I mean, I've not really studied it too much more than the documentary Jesse Day made for the Osmium Institute. For me, I think the greatest utility at the moment is if they guarantee the exchangeability rate to crystalline osmium, you can build up in the uncrystalline form and then convert it at a time of your choice into the crystalline form. So you can fix your price now for crystalline, but buying smaller denominations or tinier denominations.
Yeah, yep. I think there's still a lot of positivity in that area as well. Silver, I think, is huge opportunity there.
Yeah, and so we have various silver and gold at spot. We have brand new platinum 1 ounce Valcambi bars in assay for $28 premium. So that's about $60 less than the competition on the platinum. So yeah, we have 1 ounce rounds, 10 ounce bars, 100 ounce bars at spot on silver. Oh, and a few of these. We did get a few of these came in. If anybody wants a 24 karat gold bendy bracelet,
nice.
We got these at spot.
Nice. And I'm sure you still have great deals on the nickel. 888 was talking about your nickel deals and how good they are. So you got nickel, you got copper, 49's fine copper at great prices.
Copper nuggets. Yeah.
Yep. So give Ian a call, and he's a great source for all these different metals. He's obviously we both kind of start with your base case, your silver, your gold. And then, look at what he's done with rhenium, osmium. He's watching his metals. He knows the market. So really appreciate you coming on here and letting us know what
Frisky
is up.
Dingo asked the weight. That's 1 troy ounce.
1 troy ounce. Nice.
49 in unopened package.
Cool.
Probably won't get gold any cheaper than that, and you can wear it.
That's cool. All right, Ian. Well, thanks for coming over here and filling us in. Appreciate it.
You're welcome. Thank you.
We'll be happy to have you back on in a few weeks. Hopefully we're not proving more right constantly, but I have a feeling it's going to be a reoccurring.
I think silver is going to go up in dollars faster than your episode numbers.
Yeah, that's probably the case. So, well, yeah. All right, everybody. Thank you for hanging out with us. We will be back here Saturday, and then have an auction next Wednesday. So stay tuned. Hopefully, have some good videos coming out as well. So stay tuned, and Ian, say goodbye, and we will talk to everybody later. Thanks for hanging out with us, everybody.